Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to our second lesson looking at kafāʻah. In today's lesson, what I want to do is look at one of the seven categories. One of them here is what's called lineage. We're going to look at lineage a little bit today, insha'Allah ta'ala. So this is the mas'ala here. ثم الكفاءة تعتبر في النسب. So kafāʻah, social compatibility, marriage compatibility, is a consideration when it comes to nasab. Very, very important. So why is this important? Let's ask ourselves this really important question first and foremost. Why is nasab or lineage really, really important? Well, we're told that people boast about it, right? It's something that's fakhar between people, but it also creates social hierarchies. If you think about it, social hierarchies are important for some people at least. And so the fiqh recognizes that social reality and that creates expectations. Don't lose sight of the fact that what we're trying to do is we're trying to get people married. And alongside that, we also want to think about marriage that works. We want it to function. And remember what we talked about in the previous lesson, where if you marry someone of a lower lineage, this can create what we might want to call social disgrace, right? And we call this ar in Arabic. We talked about this before, ar. And so therefore, the Sharia, the divine law, because it deals with real life situations, it reflects this. Now, remember what I said before, and don't lose sight of this when you're teaching or thinking about this, that the law or the fiqh, right, is designed to protect the woman. Fiqh protects the woman. Very, very important. You'll see this in the cases today. And it protects the woman and her guardians. You have to think about this very, very carefully as you're reading the text from such humiliation. And if you think about pre-modern societies, medieval Arabian and broader Middle Eastern contexts, these are reflective of social realities. Remember, I've always told you, fiqh is never really in the abstract. It reflects social realities. So a good jurist, a good faqih will understand the world as it is. So this is what he's mentioning here in the case number 3 here. ثم الكفاءة تعتبر في النسب. And he's mentioned a reason why. تفاخر, right? Which is this idea of boasting among one another. And then he moves on. He says the Quraysh are mutually compatible. فقريش بعضهم أكفاء لبعض. All Qurayshis are compatible with one another. So, for example, a woman from Banu Hashim, Banu Makhzum, or Banu Adi, among others, could marry a man from any other Qurayshi clan, family, or clan without being regarded as marrying beneath her status. And this uses the hadith as an indicative determination. So it's not concrete, but the hadith here that he cites from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, "Wal aslu fi qawli sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Qurayshun ba'duhum akfa'u li ba'din." So this indicates that this is a consideration. Now I want to point out here this is indicative, right? Very, very important. Not right. It's not saying that it's determinative, like it has to be this way. But we're saying that the Prophet is indicating that these things are a consideration. And so all Arabs are compatible with one another. This is what the Prophet ﷺ says, وَالْعَرْبُ بَعْضُهُمْ أَكْفَاءُ لِبَعْضٍ قَبِيلَةٍ بِقَبِيلَةٍ. That all Arabs tribally are mutually compatible. This means that an Arab woman can marry an Arab man from a different tribe without her guardians having grounds to object based on lineage. And then Mawālī, freedmen, are also divided here as well. So the hadith divides the Mawālī, the freed people, or freed men, if you like, into different groups. So from the Mawālī, Mawālī here, as mentioned in the hadith. Freedmen, there are the Quraysh here, there are the tribal Arabs. Let's just call them tribal Arabs for now. And there are Mawālī who are non-Arab clients, right? Non-Arab clients, freed slaves or their descendants. So among the Mawālī, compatibility is only man to man, i.e., broadly equal among themselves. Again, this reflects a social stratification of early Islamic society. So you see the language here, rajulun bi rajulin. And then there's no internal hierarchy within the Quraysh. So تفاضل بين القريش ولا يعتبر التفاضل فيما بين القريش. There's no internal hierarchy. So there's no internal hierarchy, if you like, among or within the Quraysh, except one, right? So he cites the hadith, except there's no superiority among the Quraysh because this is a legal consideration in marriage suitability. And Imam Muhammad agrees, except he makes an exception here. This is very, very important. When famous lineages like the house of the caliphate, so he mentions here, nasab مشهورا كأهل بيت الخلافة. So when it comes to famous lineages like the house of the caliphate, what's called Ahlul Bayt al-Khilafah, they may be treated as an exception. You might have an exception there, right? And this is Imam Muhammad's exception. And this is done for a number of reasons. The two reasons that are mentioned here is number one, an act of political respect. So again, you can see the jurists are really pragmatic. They look at real world realities. So this is a political respect for the caliphate, or it's a measure to prevent social unrest. Let's call it that. Measure to prevent social unrest. Yeah. So again, the idea is very, very important. And then he mentions one more thing is that there is an example of a tribe called Banu Bahila. And this is an example. It doesn't have to be only them, it can be other tribes. This is a tribe that's an example of someone or a group or a family, a tribe which has low status, right? So low status. So he said these guys are an exception because they're not compatible with the generality of the Arabs, because they're known for what he mentions here, khisasa, right? Khisasa, like lowliness. So this reflects, of course, stereotypes in pre-modern Arabic sources. Um, and this is like a theological, ethical judgment, but it's the idea that, if you're from a noble family, you're well respected, usually people will find it a form of social disgrace if you were to get married to someone from like, a different standing to you. So that's why this is really important, bear in mind. You'll see this idea, by the way, come time and time again in the fiqh, which is that they're always looking at, what do people consider really, really important. You'll see an ayar is an important consideration. What does all of this mean? Well, the role of lineage is considered as one of the factors in marriage. It's very, very important, lineage. Uh, why? It protects the woman and her guardians from social harm, but it doesn't determine the validity of the marriage. It's a protection. And the guardians have a right that if a woman marries a man of significantly lower lineage, she settles for something less, they can petition, they can go to a judge and petition for annulment. Um, and the basis would be in a court of law is they want to avoid what is social disgrace. So this is not a condition of validity, but even if the husband is not a kuf, right? The marriage is still valid, but the wali can think, you know what, this isn't really good for the girl. Again, he's acting in the best interest of the girl, right? So religious suitability, financial responsibility, we'll talk about these things as well. So what I want you to think about here is that when it comes to marriage, we're looking for what's in the best interest of the girl. We want her to marry someone who's going to look after her from a good family, and it's a dignified position. I hope that you found that useful. Please do leave some comments behind. Let me know what you think. And please do think about supporting our channel, share the content. If you want to support us financially, you can do as well. We'll leave something behind in the comments section for you. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.